Hump day. We are almost through the week. We're at the halfway point. It's around lunchtime on Wednesday. Hope everybody is having a great, productive week. And I hope everybody can get through this hump day, get through the week, the rest of the week. Great. We got Thanksgiving week coming up next week. So beautiful things happening. Beautiful things happening. I appreciate everybody who's been tuning in. I appreciate everybody who is strolling back. Shout out Jesus M in the building. Leave your comments. If you do one thing, hit the like button as you comment. All you got to do is hit that X on the comment section while you're on your phone. Hit that like button real quick, and then you pull the comment section right back up. So if you do one thing to support the channel, just hit the like button. Not worried about anything financially. That's not what I'm about here. I don't put cash apps or anything up there, or you don't have to hit a super chat. Just hit the like button. That's all I ask you to do. Hit the like button. I don't even monetize my videos anymore. Just hit the like button. Shout out my guy G Funky, and my apologies for last night G Funky, by the way. Just stuff with the kids, just craziness right now with Thanksgiving weekend coming up next week. And my boy Bruce Gas in the building. We got to chop it up again soon. Bruce, always appreciate you coming through, showing support. JC rolling through as well. And it's going to be a good show. We got a dry week of boxing. Not much going on, but we're going to have a good and productive show. This is a good opportunity to once again try to educate on where we are in boxing, how we got here, how far we are from where we were 25, 30 years ago, and what we can do to get back on track, and being realistic in the fact that we likely won't get back on track. What we can try to do as boxing fans to sort of salvage where we are and get more of what we want going forward. That's going to be one of these shows. And I'll tell you what, Tank wants to fight in DC in December. He's going to fight in DC in December. That's what he announced on Instagram. So if he's going to fight in DC, guess what's likely not happening? Guess what's likely not happening? Tank versus Ryan. If Tank versus Ryan was going to happen, it was going to happen likely in LA, I'm assuming, or Vegas, I'm assuming, if they want to escape the California taxes. But that would have been a more West Coast fight, right? If you want to maximize the value of the fight, the live gate, et cetera, et cetera. So what Tank in DC tells me is it's likely one of those opponents where in order to maximize the financials of the fight, you have to put it somewhere where the live gate is going to be great, a hometown fight, right? So it tells me that this is likely going to be one of those Tank opponents that we've gotten used to, right? Inferior opposition, and it's going to be the Tank Davis theorem all over again, recycled all over again. It's Tank Davis versus a fighter that they've already set up on the contract that he will beat. Going to be a huge underdog, but they're somehow going to build up this B-side some other way through trash talk. They're going to build him up as, oh, this guy is actually better than you thought. He's actually better. And then he's going to win some rounds off of Tank because Tank gives up rounds before he knocks guys out. And then in doing so, they'll be able to prop up this fighter after and get him on the rankings if he's not already there, or move him up the rankings just because he had a strong performance against Tank Davis. It's the theorem. That's how it works. And also part of the theorem is he doesn't campaign in a single weight class, therefore he's not a target. So 140-pounders can't call him out if he fights at 140, because he'll then drop down to 135. And if a 135-pounder calls him out, oh, guess what? I don't care about the belts. The belts don't matter anymore. And we'll talk about the belts. We'll talk about belt holder trends, how many American belt holders we currently have, how many belts they hold, as opposed to belt holders from other countries, because the globe is shrinking. The world is getting smaller. And as it is, you're getting more belt holders from outside of America. You're getting less belt holders in America, and it doesn't have to be that way, by the way. It doesn't. We are not operating intelligently in American boxing. We're not. Our infrastructure is not good from the bottom up. And we're still producing some great fighters, but once we produce them, we're trying to manufacture them instead of organically growing them, organically building them. And in doing so, we lose sight of where these fighters need to go, where they need to be. And we get a picture that we have currently with American boxing, where we don't have a single American champion north of middleweight. Zero. Not a single American champion north of middleweight. Zero. We have 2 American champions south of 135. Two. So it's incredible. Like that, those are incredible stats. Not one American champion north of middleweight, only 2 American champions south of lightweight. This is where we're at, fellas. This is where we're at. And we'll talk about how we got there and what we need to do to get out of that. Who's Tank fighting? I don't know. I'm assuming a mediocre opposition. If he's fighting in DC, if it's a hometown fight, I'm assuming it's inferior opposition. Somebody willing to go to DC and take 300,000, 250,000, because Tank's such a huge star, right? And because Tank's such a huge star, the B side fighter gets 250 to 300,000 to fight him, and they got to go to his hometown to fight him. Steven 4722, appreciate you coming through. Some tomato can, that's what people are saying. Tank Davis is a gimmick. They have to build up a fan base for him, and they maintain it by making sure he keeps getting wins by KO and not losing his O. That seems to be part of the Tank Davis theorem, right? That seems to be part of the model is they've got to keep the O. If they're going to continue to do this, they've got to keep the O in order to keep him perfectly polarizing. And on top of that, they got to keep the KO streak alive as well in order to keep him entertaining. Nordic Warrior, appreciate you coming through. God bless to you and your family as well. Now, I don't know. Like, I look at the landscape from 130 to 140, and people are telling me it could possibly be a Gary Russell Jr. coming up from 126. And you know the interesting thing about it is when people started to spread the rumors that it was going to be Abner Mares, the fact that it was even believable that he was possibly going to be fighting a guy who is a fight or two away from becoming Stevie Wonder, unfortunately, serious eye injuries and should not be fighting, that it was actually believable. That's sad that it was actually believable. And the fact that Gary Russell Jr. is an acceptable and tolerable fight for many for Tank Davis tells us where we're at with Tank Davis in his level of opposition through 10 years. We'll talk about fighter activity and the trends, and they're not good. They're not good. Fighter activity, where we're at in boxing. And the issue that we're having in boxing is not only the fighter inactivity and that the activity level has gone down. When the activity level goes down, inversely, the quality of fights should go up. And it's not. The quality is going down as well. And Tank Davis's career tells us that 26 fights in 10 years. And none of those 26 fights even resemble anything close to an even odds fight. And there are plenty even odds fights. There have been plenty even odds fights throughout his career in the divisions he's been campaigning in that could have been made throughout his career. Sad. It's sad. It's the whole PBC agenda. So currently we have 16 American belt holders. 16. Or we hold 16 belts. 7 American belt holders, and we hold a total of 16 belts. Mexico is number 2 with 9. Japan has 7. UK has 6. Russia 4. Ukraine 4, Kazakhstan 3, Dominican 2, Uzbekistan 2, Thailand 2, Australia, South Africa, Puerto Rico, Congo, Australia, and France all have 1. So what does this tell us? In the middleweight classes, between lightweight and middleweight, we're doing okay. We're doing okay. But the issue with in between lightweight and middleweight is we seem to be having a lot of problems with making the fights that need to be made. And this is the issue with American boxing, is if we look at the activity level across the globe, And I'm going to give you the top 50 box rec fighters, pound for pound. And it's the same story across the globe. It's the same inactivity level across the globe. But the issue with American boxing is not only do we have an inactivity issue, we also have a quality issue of fights. We're not getting the fights that we want between American fighters. We are not unifying belts between American fighters outside of lightweight and middleweight especially. And it's an issue. It's an issue. Who's Stanionis going to fight next? Who's Boots going to fight next? Who's Cody Crowley going to fight next? Who's Ryan going to fight next? Who's Tank going to fight next? Who are these guys going to fight next? And I'm starting to think, and I'll be the only one to throw it out there, that the issue with Spence versus Crawford, because remember, both Spence and Crawford confirmed that Crawford didn't get an outline of a contract until September, or August or September, 4 full months after Spence had fought. So what does that tell us? That they were dragging their feet. Why would they be dragging their feet? I'm starting to believe, and I'll be the one to throw it out there, that they just didn't have the money in the budget for Showtime, that they never wanted to make that fight for 2022. They were lying to both fighters that they did, and they wanted to hold up the whole picture in order to push it to 2023, because Boots couldn't fight, Stanionis couldn't fight, Crowley couldn't fight. What's going on with Tank and Ryan? It all seemed to be pushed to 2023, and I think that had to do with budgets. Remember, they're out there telling us that the Tim Tszyu fight with Jermell Charlo couldn't happen in January because Tim Tszyu has an injury. Nonetheless, it's happening in January. Everything seems to be pushed to January, March. We're hearing PBC having dates for March, May, September, and I think we're going to have the same cycle with the PBC in 2023. It's going to be a front-loaded year. You're going to have higher quality of fights in the beginning of the year and higher quantity, and as the year goes on, lower quality, lower quantity. I think that's the type of 2023 we're going to have. It's going to mirror 2022, but I think it's going to be even worse as the year goes on. So now we'll likely get Tank versus God only knows who, Ryan versus God only knows who, Boots versus God only knows who, Stanionis versus God only knows who. Hopefully they make some of these fights between these guys at welterweight, but I'm not holding my breath. Not holding my breath. So all of a sudden we have a picture in which we have 7 American belt holders. And fellas, I'm telling you, it's a dire situation, because imagine a scenario in which Mel loses to Tim Tszyu. Imagine a scenario in which Devin Haney loses to Lomachenko. All of a sudden, 8 belts go out the window. 8 American belts go out of the window and go to a Ukraine fighter, an Australia fighter. And all of a sudden, we're left with 8 belts amongst 5 champions, a handful of them. And we'll have opportunities in which we'll have opportunities to pick up belts elsewhere. It is what it is. Appreciate you coming through, Nando, Steven 4722. The promoters in the U.S. are destroying the sport with their BS. The TV networks need to tell the promoters we only want competitive fights. We're not paying for low-grade fights. But it goes back to what I've been saying is you're tied down to networks. So a Boots Ennis can't go out there and say, hey, I'm going to go elsewhere and get my fights. Boots Ennis is locked down to a minimum. He's locked down to Showtime. So he has to wait in gridlock. And it sounds good when he's signing the contract. Oh, everything's already taken care of for me. I got my minimums. I got Showtime taking care of me. Everybody's telling me everything's good. But as we've seen, these guys get caught in gridlock when the top fights aren't being made, when it's not in the budget. And then there's no minimum when you're not fighting. And then you have a non-disparaging clause in your contract to where you can't come out and actively talk about how frustrated you are. That's where these fighters are. But fellas, we have 0 American belt holders north of middleweight. 0. And how does that happen? How does it happen? It happens when you have a talented David Benavidez Jr. not fighting. It happens when you have a talented Caleb Plant not fighting as much as he should have when he had belts. He lost it to Canelo Alvarez regardless. That's how that happens. How do we have 0 American champions south of lightweight? How does it happen? How? As boxing fans, we're getting less activity in fights. I mean, I've given you this stat. Let me look up the activity stats that I wrote down earlier. I mean, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. So if you take the top 50 box rec, pound for pound, 69 fights total between the top 50. If you take Ring Magazine top 10 pound for pound fighters, Ring Magazine, 13 fights they'll have this year combined. 13. 13. And the picture doesn't get better as it's expanded. This isn't like the UFC model. UFC, once you get to the top elite level, yes, you'll have fighters fighting once, maybe twice per year. It mirrors boxing, but the issue is, the good thing about UFC is when there's less activity, there's more quality. It works inversely. As you get less active fighters, the more quality the fights will be. That's how it's supposed to work. With boxing, it doesn't. It doesn't. We're getting guys fighting once per year against average opposition. And we're getting a picture in which is trickling all the way down to where you have mediocre fighters fighting once, maybe twice per year. And you're getting prospects fighting maybe 3 times per year. It's ridiculous. Boots Ennis should not be fighting once in a year at this stage in his career. Virgil Ortiz, what is it? September, October, November. We're almost 4 months since his last fight, and we've got nothing. Nothing. On average, top 50 box rec fighters are fighting once every 9 months. God bless Canelo Alvarez. Canelo fights in May, and he loses convincingly. And guess what? 16 days later, he announces his next pay-per-view fight for 3 months later. God bless him. Carrying the sport. God bless him. What are these other dudes doing? Virgil Ortiz, where is he? 1 fight in 14 months. They should have had something for him right then. A month later. Let's get a fight. Let's get a fight. Let's get a fight. We're 4 months later almost, and no fight, nothing announced. Goodness gracious. I'm just waiting on a Netflix doc. Al Heyman, big fight serial killer. We got 3 victims this year alone. Munguia, Jamal, Bud Spence, Tank Ryan. And this is what I'm saying with the networks, Nando, is it's always an excuse. Always. Always. Always an excuse. And they get away with it by dumbing down the American public. These American elitist boxing fans just don't get it. Somebody sent me a clip on Twitter earlier of a guy going on the Boxing Voice, and Ness is trying to put him in his place. He's telling him, the dude's calling Indongo a bum because Terrence Crawford became undisputed by fighting Indongo. And fair enough, 140 was a weaker division at that point, fair enough. But what he's trying to say is, and what I've been trying to say is, what defines an elite fighter? What defines it? The eye test? Is that what you're going to tell me? Because we seem to be going increasingly to that. The eye test, the eye test, the eye test. And why do we have to go to the eye test? Because they're just simply not doing anything. I keep explaining, like, if the activity level is going down, inversely, the quality of fights should be going up, and it's not. They're giving us less fights and lower quality fights. Or the quality of the fights, at least, are not going up. So we have less to go off of. So people are starting to rely on the eye test. And if you want to do that, fine, but at least give props to the fighters who are actively going out there and doing things. Indongo is given a mandatory status that he earned. He goes to Russia, hometown of his Russian opponent, defeats their undefeated champion for the IBF belt. 6 months later, he skips across to the UK, goes to the hometown of Ricky Burns, defeats him for the WBA belt, and he leverages those two belts and goes into the belly of the beast and fights Terrence Crawford in Omaha, Nebraska. But 3 straight fights in which this guy is trying to unify and consolidate belts and successfully does it twice and then attempts it a third time against a pound-for-pound level fighter. And we're going to degrade that fighter just so you can, by extension, degrade whatever Terrence Crawford is doing right now. And that doesn't sit well with me. One, it shows the unintelligence and the elitism of American boxing fans. That's number one, because you should know who Indongo is. You should know he's a good fighter. You should know what he did and what he achieved. And he actually achieved things, as opposed to fighters that you're out there calling elite. Like Tank Davis, who has never unified. Never unified. He's won one real belt in his whole career. One. And where is he unifying? He's a Reggie Belt champion. He's not a 3-division champion. This is easy. It's easy. For the love of God, like at this point in his career, this dude, what are we talking about? Like, people are saying Gary Russell Jr. is going to be his next opponent, and they're actually okay with it. Gary Russell Jr. coming off of a loss to Mark Magsayo, and he's going to hop up to 135, and you're okay with that? Gary Antoine Russell, okay, that's fine. All right, whatever. We know that fight's not going to happen, though. Too much of a risk. That's too much. Anything above an average opposition is too much legacy over currency, and we can't have that. We have to have currency over legacy. And I explained the other day is when you have the currency versus legacy model, especially early on in a fighter's career, you got to earn your way to currency over legacy. You got to do it by going legacy over currency first. They're skipping that process and going currency over legacy. And long term, you get no legacy and you get less currency long term, because they're not organically building these fighters as big as they should be. Tank Davis should be much bigger than he is now. Much bigger. And you'll have people out there brainwashing you to think that Mayweather Promotions is doing some sort of great job with Tank Davis, and they're not. They're limiting him. They're limiting him. I understand he's sold out. He's done well in Staples. He's done well in Vegas. He's done well in D.C., Atlanta, New York. I'm with you. I'm aboard there. He's done well live gate in those places. He's not doing well pay-per-view. And by the way, he'd be doing even better live gate. You wouldn't have to comp some people in order to sell out those arenas if you unleashed him. And they are not unleashing this dude. And that's why Tank Davis is not a household name in America. It has nothing. You can look for all the alibis you want. And I know y'all love to look for them when it comes to the American boxing public. And why American fighters are not stars. I know y'all love to look for the surface issue alibis, but I'm telling you, there's an infrastructure problem. There is a substance foundational problem with American boxing, to where you're not maximizing the potential and the star qualities of these American boxers. And when we get down to 7 American belt holders holding 16 belts, it's an embarrassment. And part of it is the world's catching up. That's naturally going to happen. It's naturally going to happen. 1992, the Dream Team goes out there to Barcelona. They destroy everybody, but in doing so, they expose the world to great basketball, and the rest of the world is seeing this and saying, I want to be Michael Jordan. I want to be Clyde Drexler. I want to be Magic Johnson. I want to be Larry Bird. I want to be David Robinson. I want to be Patrick Ewing. I want to be Chris Mullin. I want to be these guys. So let's set up some basketball courts. Let's build some infrastructure, and let's get basketball's a cheap game. It doesn't take much to put up a goal. You got concrete, you got a basketball. It's not like baseball. It's not like golf. It's not like football. Not much for the infrastructure of building basketball. And they've done it. Now you have great basketball players coming from all over the world, right? And the world has caught up. And they're influencing American game, the American game, as much as Americans are influencing basketball in other parts of the world now. That's where we're at. If you look at basketball in the NBA, it's more finesse than ever, more flopping than ever. You see the soccer influence coming to basketball. They're influencing our game now. They've caught up, or they're catching up. It's closer than ever. Now we got to work to win gold medals. We got to work. We got to work hard. We can't just bounce out there and expect to stroll up and win a gold medal. It doesn't happen anymore. It doesn't happen. They're catching up, and we're seeing a similar thing in boxing, right? We're influencing them. They're starting to influence us. You're starting to see this mesh, but you're starting to see them catch up to where if we lose, I'm telling you, if January strolls around and Tim Tszyu upsets Jermell Charlo, if March or April rolls around and Lomachenko upsets Devin Haney, now we're in a situation where we have 8 belts, 5 belt holders. That's how close we are, fellas, from losing our stranglehold on this sport, and we shouldn't be in that position. I understand the rest of the world is catching up, but we should still be we're still producing talent. We're still producing talent, but there's a difference between producing talent, producing talented fighters with potential, and then realizing that potential. That's the difference. I coach youth basketball. I'm telling, I see these strength and conditioning and these micro trainers in basketball now. They're teaching these kids to go around cones, and the ball handling is better than ever. It is. Ball handling is better than ever. You got 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds dribbling with both hands, blindfolded, dribbling 2 basketballs, dribbling behind the back, in between the legs. Then you got better shooters than ever. But I'm looking at this, and I'm like, then I watch the games, and they're not doing some of this stuff in the games. And then the quality of the games doesn't seem to be better than it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. And I'm having to ask myself, wait, why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why does this kid look incredible in training, incredible in the layup line, but he gets in the game and he's not all that great? Because the cone is not a real defender. That's why. Because it's easy to shoot over a broom. That's why. Have somebody running out at you. Try to dribble around an actual defender. They're not building basketball players. Duh. I go to AAU games and Team A is beating Team B by 30 points, and I'm watching a glorified street ball game. And I'm saying, are we building actual basketball players? I understand they're talented. They're jumping higher than ever. They're shooting better than ever. They're dribbling better than ever, but they don't look like better basketball players to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. And it's the same thing with boxing. We have dudes punching harder than ever, moving faster than ever. Are they better boxers? Is that what we're going to go with? Because I got dudes telling me this is the golden age of boxing. We got more talented fighters than ever. They're looking back at Harry Greb films of him shadow boxing his friend in front of a gymnasium a century ago and saying, ha, 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 look how slow that guy was. Look, anybody would have destroyed that guy. This is the unintelligence of the modern day boxing fan. You're not building better boxers. You're not. You're not. Because you're putting them in an artificial fish tank instead of having them to swim out in the ocean with real sharks. Everything is being artificialized. We're manufacturing champions instead of building them. And I'm going to be the bad guy for pointing this out again. That's fine. But I look at the top 50 box rec, pound for pound. They fought a total of 69 times. And I'm looking at some of these dudes and I'm like, the quality of opposition they fought is not all that good. You have one fighter in the top 50 box rec, pound for pound. One who fought more than twice. His name is William Zepeda. One. He fought 3 times. 3. You have 18 in the top 50 pound for pound who fought twice. So what does that tell us? We have 30 of the 50, top 50, 30 of the top 50 pound for pound fighters according to BoxRec. And I know BoxRec is a flawed. I don't like BoxRec's pound for pound list, but it's the only one that gives you an expanded list. So the top fighters are in there somewhere. You might not like the order, but they're in there. 30 of the 50 fought once. 60% of our top 50 pound for pound fighters fought once. And we have one who fought 0 times. His name is Boo Boo Andrade. Fought 0 times. Those are the outliers, right? Zepeda 3, Boo Boo Andrade 0. But everybody else is in that 1 to 2 range. 1 to 2. They're fighting on average once every 9 months. And it gets back to my point. Like, everything is taking so long to develop. Virgil Ortiz fights for the first time in 14 months, and we're 4 months since his last fight almost, and we've got nothing scheduled. Boots Ennis, he last fought in May, nothing scheduled. Apparently he's saying he's fighting in January, but every single time, like every week, fight day coming. 37 rounds of sparring, fight day coming. 32 miles run today, fight day coming. All right, when's it coming? I'm waiting. When's this fight day coming? When's Cody Crowley going to fight again? And then I'm supposed to be excited when they announce Tank versus a Gary Russell Jr. $69 times total. The top 50 fighters pound for pound. And if you take Ring Magazine's pound for pound top 10, it's 13, like I said. And if you take Ring Magazine's top 10 pound for pound in 1997, 25 years ago, they fought a combined 27 times. Furthermore, Oscar De La Hoya fought 5 times that year as Ring Magazine's pound for pound fighter of the year. Some of these dudes on the pound for pound list, it's going to take them 5 years to match that activity. 5 years. It's going to take them 5 years to match the activity of Oscar De La Hoya in 1997. And I swear to God, almost all of them, they're not going to meet his quality level of that year. That's where we're at with these dudes. And we're wondering why there's a dwindling market in America. It's a combination of everything. They're dumbing us down. We didn't even, they're doing it right in front of our faces and we don't realize it. You have dudes out there saying this was actually a great year of boxing. It's a great year. It's a great year. Compared to what? Last year? 2020? How is this a great year of boxing? And I'm not going to be over negative. I still get on here and talk about the fights. I'm still excited about some fights. We'll be talking about Prograis versus Zepeda next week. And guess who's going to be buying that fight? Me. I'm going to be supporting it. I'm going to be supporting the New Orleans fighter, Regis Prograis. If it wasn't Thanksgiving weekend, I'd actually go out there for the fight. So I'm supporting. I'm still here. But I'm telling you, if you think this is all rainbows and unicorns and flowers, it's not. And we need to also focus on the bad things. We need to balance it, right? We'll talk about the positive, but we need to talk about the negative too. Can't be too negative, can't be too positive. But this is one of those shows when we got to point out some of the bad things going on. Errol Spence. They found out that Terrence Crawford was moving elsewhere. What was that, 3 weeks ago? Where's his fight? Where is it? Announcement pending? Announcement coming soon? Can somebody give me an update? Where is it? I'm assuming it's not going to be in 2022, right? Wild guess. So I have a crazy idea when I see this stuff. It's like, okay, things aren't going so well. So Crazy idea. How about you get fighters to fight more? No, we can't do that because it's not realistic, number one. And number two, it's not good for fighter safety. How is it not good for fighter safety? No, well, number one, how is it not realistic? Well, the business model, the current business model, okay. Number two, how is it bad for fighter safety for fighters to be fighting more? Well, they get punched in the face. They're fighting more. They're getting punched in the face more. Okay. I have a question. Have injuries gone down since fighters have been fighting half as much? Have they gone down? Because I seem to remember a lot of fighters pulling out due to injury this year. So are injuries going down? I don't know. I don't have any. Well, you're telling me that it's for fighter safety. So surely you have some empirical data to back that up, that fighter safety is getting better. Fighter safety is getting better. If they're fighting half as much, then fighter safety should be inversely, it should be doubling. Fighter safety should be getting much better, like 100% better, since fighters are fighting half as much. But I'm still seeing a lot of injuries. Yeah. Okay, so we're adding padding to gloves, right? That's what we're doing. We're adding padding to gloves when gloves are meant to protect the hands, not the head. So you're not helping head injuries by adding padding to gloves. And on top of that, all you're doing is adding to the amount of punches that they're taking to the head. And on top of that, as Steve Kim points out, overtrained, underfought. So these fighters are still training as much. They're training as much for one fight as they used to for two fights. 10-week training camps, 12-week training camps. So they're still sparring as much as they used to. So once again, I'm over here left like you want me to assume that fighter safety is getting better, and I'm not. I'm not going to do that. Show me the empirical evidence that fighter safety is getting better since fighters are fighting less. Show it to me. Is it out there? Because I've been searching. I don't see it. Show me the evidence that fighter safety is getting better. Because it doesn't seem to be. Tell that to poor Morrell Jr.'s opponent who's in a coma right now. Is fighter safety getting better? So that excuse is not going to fly. But once again, if it's not realistic for me to get more fights, that's too much to ask. What I at least want you to do is give me a higher quality of fights. If I'm getting less of something, I at least want to get more quality of it. If I'm getting half the amount of fights, I want double the quality of the fight. Each fight should be better. I shouldn't even have to ask. Like Spence versus Crawford, that should be a given. Should be a given. You can't make money off of it. I don't care. You make money off of fight A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. And I'm supposed to get over here and cry. Oh my God. Oh no. Play the small violin. You can't make money. You made money off of fight 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And I'm supposed to get over here and cry that you can't make money off of fight 20. My answer to that is make fight 20. I don't care. When Bob was over there saying, I can't make money off of Haney versus Kambosos reach, I don't care. I don't care if you can't make it. Make it. You promised it. You told Kambosos that he was getting a rematch clause. Make the damn fight. I don't care. I don't care. It's not my fault. I don't even want to see the rematch, but get it over with and stop crying. Make the damn fight. Steven Espinoza said, where's the quality control? Maybe he plans on becoming a PBC exec after Showtime Boxing closes. And look, I'm being told Showtime is going to wrap it up, and maybe Paramount will keep boxing, maybe they won't. But here's my frustration with that too is I've been told for years PBC is going away, PBC is going away, PBC is going away. I just have to assume that PBC is going to be like a cockroach. They're going to be giving us the same quality and quantity of fights in 2025, still hanging on by a thread, but still be there. And the issue I have with that as a boxing fan, and people think that I just randomly woke up one day and decided that I want to hate Al Haymon. And the boxing channels that have come after me for this in the past You don't like Al Heyman, and we all know the reasons why they think I don't like Al Heyman. I don't wake out of bed disliking anybody in the boxing world, liking anybody in the boxing world for no reason. You have a talented roster of fighters that you picked off from other rosters. You did it by promising them the world, and you're not delivering that to a lot of them. And a lot of them can't contractually come out and complain about it. But on top of that, I don't even care about any of that. The issue is I'm getting screwed as a boxing fan because you have this talented roster of fighters that are gridlocked right now because apparently you don't have the money in the budget to put them in the ring. And then when you do have the money in the budget, it has to be on pay-per-view in order for you to make money. And then when I come out here and cry and whine about the fights being on pay-per-view that don't deserve to be on pay-per-view, I have other boxing fans coming at me instead of Al Heyman. So I don't know what to do with that. So I just have to assume that PBC is going to find a way, and they'll continue to go on this year after year after year. And the boxing fans at the end of the day get screwed because everybody else is making money some kind of way. They're all making money. They'll come out here and whine to you about how they can't make money in this model. They're making money. If they weren't making money, they wouldn't be around. At the end of the day, we're the ones getting screwed. Only we are getting these mega fights is if EA comes out with a new fight night. I would like to see Boots in his Mean Machine. It would be interesting to see how he goes against him. It's a good fight. It's a good fight. Gary Russell versus Tank isn't a bad fight. And that's the thing, like, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to disparage anybody, but it's just like that's how beat down we are. That's how beat down we are to where we're acceptable and inviting towards a fight like that. There should be like 30 dudes on the list that you'd rather see Tank fight than a Gary Russell Jr. Nobody should be accepting of that fight at this point. I mean, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with that. Gary Russell Jr. lost his last fight, correct? To Mark Magsayo. Unless I'm missing something. I feel bad for Boots. And by the way, he's a lot naturally smaller than Tank. I feel bad for Boots. Showtime PBC got him in purgatory. But that's the thing, Nando. It's like at some point, these dudes have to, like, if they're really frustrated with how their careers are going, at some point, if they can't come out and openly complain about it, they should be at least working the back channels and saying, hey, young fella, do not do it. Don't do it. Don't sign to this guy. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm just telling you. It's like Floyd Schofield and his dad were out there saying, we have people telling us not to sign to PBC. Tank is out there saying, I got PBC fighters who are my friends telling me, be careful with Al Heyman in these negotiations. So at least you have some of that going on. But when I see these fighters continue to sign these contracts, I don't know how I can feel sorry for them when they're getting caught up in gridlock with inactivity and they want fights and they want fight dates and they want to fight more and they want to fight top opposition, but they're not able to. I don't know how much longer I can feel sorry for them because they have a lot of data to go off of at this point. Stars' talent can't be built if they're invisible. Invisible. And, I don't know. Haney upsets Loma. I tend to think that Haney's going to be the slight betting favorite in that fight. I tend to think that. I think there was actually betting odds out there already. And I think Haney was a slight favorite against Loma. So, I don't know. That's here nor there. Crying over millionaires. Yep. Buzz Spence should have been a trilogy by now. Big Money and Legacy for both. Robert Guerra, salute Cali Boxing. So many problems with Tank. He don't fight the elite black fighters. Tank is one of my favorite fighters, but when is the last time he fought a black fighter? I don't know. It's been a while, but elite fighters come from anywhere. They wear all kind of different shades, different parts of the world. So I don't get wrapped up in that too much. But the reason that people bring that up, and I understand where you're coming from with that, is the narrative seems to be with a lot of American boxing fans is in order to be an elite fighter, you have to be fighting elite black fighters. And when that's thrown back in the face of the Tank Davis fans, they don't seem to like that. I don't know. So I understand why you would ask that. For me personally, I don't care where the talent's coming from, and I understand that it comes from all over the place. So I don't get wrapped up into that too much, but I understand why you're asking it. I get it. But to me, like when I see American fighters in the top 50 box rec, only like 3 of them have fought more than once. Only like 3 of them. So, I mean, what are we doing? I'm looking looking at a lot of the guys on this list, and I'm like, they're not fighting great opposition. They're not. None of them are real. I mean, not many of them, maybe a handful are doing anything really special. One of them in the top 50 box rec fought more than twice this year. How do you build a model like that? And with the UFC, at least you got like a structure, right? The top level, they're going to fight once, maybe twice. But when Dana's putting these guys in, the champions or the top contenders, he's putting them in against each other. Me and D-Style talked about that the other night on his podcast, is when you watch a UFC event, the champion's in there, he's against number 1 contender or number 2 contender or maybe number 4 contender. He's in there with a contender. There are exceptions to that rule if 2 guys are they're big time fighters. Maybe they're at the end of their career and they're both big names and it happens and they're not on the top 10 list or whatever. Those are exceptions, but the top fighters are fighting other top fighters. So at least if they're not getting the activity level, they're at least giving us quality. If we're not getting the quantity, we got to get the quality. And if we're not getting either, what are we doing here? What are we doing? And they're going to throw out all kind of excuses as to maybe it's fighter safety, the business. And what it comes down to is protecting your assets. They're protecting their assets. That's all it is. They're trying to brainwash you into thinking that what's happening now is normal. It's perfectly normal. It's perfectly normal. 25 years ago, don't pay attention to that. Don't pay attention to top 10, fought combined 27 times. Don't pay attention to any of that. It's caveman stuff. And the people who want to see that, they're like the Romans showing up at the Colosseum to see the gladiators fight. They're bad people. They shouldn't be asking for that. And then I'm over here asking for evidence that this current model that you have is actually better for fighter safety. Show me the empirical evidence. Show it to me. Show it to me. Please, I'm sitting here waiting. Show it to me. Show me the evidence that is better for fighter safety. Show me the evidence that cross-promotion fights can't happen. Show me the evidence that cross-network fights can't happen. Show it to me. Show it to me. Because I got all kind of people telling me this fight can't happen because of this, that. I'm sitting here. I don't care. Make the fight. I don't care. Make the fight. Tank versus Ryan, make it. Make the fight. And if Tank and Ryan aren't fighting next, I'm not all that interested in anything else they got going on. I got to be honest. They already said they're not. You don't care about the belts. They said that. You don't care about fighting in weight classes. You just fight at catch weights. They said that. If they don't care about the sport, like an actual sport and being the best, and they're not going to fight each other, why am I interested? I'm finding it increasingly difficult to care about Tank and Ryan's career. I got to be honest. At least Ryan is out there like doing the right things. Ryan's out there saying, Ryan fought twice this year. He's out there saying, I want the Tank fight. He's holding everybody's feet to the fire on Twitter. Make the fight. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't happen, I don't know, how am I supposed to care? How am I supposed to care about Tank and Ryan if they're not giving us the fight that we won. And on top of that, they're actively both out there saying they don't care about being champions. They're actively concealing themselves to fighters and weight classes by not campaigning in a single weight class. How do we put Tank and Ryan especially, how do we put him in the top 10 at 135 when he's saying he's not campaigning at 135? Then how do we put him in the top 10 at 140 when he's not fighting 40 pounders? He's fighting 135 pounders at 140. And then I think they're trying to make this fight at a catch weight of 136. What are we doing? And now you're telling me it can't happen. What am I supposed to do with all that? I don't know. So unfortunately, I see going into 2023, if I could play the Nostradamus role, I think that 2023 is going to mirror 2022. I think we're going to get off to, it'll start off a little bit okay, and then March, April, like this year we had a hot April through June, late June. And then once July hit, started to slow down, and then fourth quarter, it really started to slow down. And I think we're going to have a similar thing in 2023. We'll have fights pretty soon. The next week or two, I think they'll start to announce fights. Boots will get an opponent. Stanionis will get an opponent. Errol will announce his opponent. Tank and Ryan will announce their opponents pretty soon, I think. So we'll start to get things. We'll start to get news. Hopefully they're fights we want to see. But either way, we'll start to get big hitters in the first quarter of 2023. And I think the second quarter will heat up. And then third and fourth quarter, it'll start to slow down and it'll go to a crawl late in 2023. I think that's what's going to happen. As budgets dry up, as fighters start to get gridlocked, as other top fights are not made, 2023 is going to be a lot like 2022, I think. So what do we do with that? We continue to naively push for what we want. Naively push for what you want. Naively still push for fighters to be more active. And certainly ramp up the complaints about the quality. Because realistically, we've taken an off ramp and we're not getting back on when it comes to activity. We're not going to go back to how it was when guys were fighting. It was normal for guys to fight 3 times a year, 4 times if you're lucky. Now the norm is 1 time a year and twice if you're lucky. And the stats prove that to us. Because this isn't an anomaly. What we have in 2022 is what we had in 2021, 2019, 2018. This is the norm now. Top 50 pound-for-pound fighters fighting a combined 69 times, fighting an average of once per 9 months is now the norm. It's the norm. They moved the goalpost on us. It's done. And they did it with the guise of fighter safety, with the guise of this is a business, not a sport. They did it to us, and we accepted it for a while, and now we are where we are. They got their foot in the door, and now they busted it open, and now we're here. And there's no getting that back, unfortunately. But we still push for it naively. We still complain about it. That's what we do as boxing fans. That's what we should do. And that's what I'll do here. But we certainly, at this point, realistically will accept that, but still complain about it. Step 2 is you complain about the quality of fights. And any fan who tries to get in the way of that, you bash them over the head with your words. I'm not saying physically, just bash them over the head with words. Get the hell out of the way. I'm speaking to the promoters. I'm speaking to the managers. Get out of my way. I want higher quality fights. And just because your favorite fighter is Tank Davis and you're okay with him fighting Gary Russell Jr. or Joe Blow, number 2,000 in BoxRec standings, that's what you want. You want to be a simp? That's fine. But I just want to see the best fights. I want to find out if this guy is the truth or not. I want to find out if this guy truly is the best lightweight, like he says he is. I want to find out about Ryan Garcia. I don't care if this guy's that network, doesn't matter to me. I don't care. You lost me. Make the fight. I want to find out. Give me a higher quality of fights. If I'm going to get less than 70 fights in a year, less than 70 fights in a year from the top 50 pound-for-pound fighters, the best fighters are across the world. And like I said, this is an across-the-world problem now with activity. It's not just American fighters, it's all of them now. The difference is a lot of American fighters are not only not giving us activity, they're not giving us high quality of fights. That seems to be the difference. What also seems to be the difference is the dumbing down of American boxing fans. And I had a friend tell me this who I met out in Vegas for the Canelo fight. And we're talking after the Canelo fight, and we're talking about how the place was 70% full when Bam Rodriguez fought. And then magically, between the Bam Rodriguez and Canelo fight, the other 30% showed up right away. And the fight before that, less than half full. And the fight before that, 20% full. And he's telling me this doesn't happen when I go overseas to watch fights. When I go to the UK to watch fights, it doesn't happen. When fans from over here go to Japan to watch fights, it doesn't happen. Boxing fans today seem to be, I think we've been conditioned to not care about the undercard. So even when we have a good undercard, we're not caring about it because we're just going to assume it's not a good card. I don't know. But that's another issue with organically building American fighters. If people increasingly don't care when the fighters are at that level, it's not good. And it comes down to exposure. Once again, when activity starts to trickle down all the way down to where you have prospects fighting 3 times per year, that's not good for the exposure of that fighter. Those fighters should be getting all kinds of fight dates. And those fighters should be getting on TV as well. And that's where we used to have ESPN Friday night fights, USA Tuesday night fights. You had those fights mixed in with still some championship level boxing. Showbox used to be on more. You used to be able to go access those fights easily and access those fighters easily. I remember watching Alan Green on ESPN Friday night fights like 3 times per year. And we knew about Alan Green before he got on the Showtime market. But now it's more confusing as to where do I access these fighters? What app do I go to? And I'm not complaining about the apps. That's not the big problem. The big problem is we have less access to these fighters due to inactivity and due to people not caring as much because the fights just aren't as good. The matchups just aren't as good as they used to be. 1997 pound-for-pound list. De La Hoya 5 times. Roy Jones Jr. fought twice. Tito fought twice. Pernell Whitaker 3 times. Evander Holyfield twice. Terry Norris fought 4 times. Junior Jones twice. Ricardo Lopez twice. Ike Quartey twice. Mark Johnson 3 times. You don't have a single fighter on that top 10 pound-for-pound list from 1997 who fought less than 2 times. Not one. Today's pound-for-pound list, same pound-for-pound list, Ring Magazine. Usyk fought once. Inoue fought twice. Crawford is going to fight once. Spence once. Lomachenko once. Canelo twice. Bivol twice. Josh Taylor once. Charlo once. Beterbiev once. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 fighters who couldn't fight twice this year. 7. You have 3 fighters who fought twice in the top 10 pound-for-pound list. 3. And I have people trying to tell me that this isn't an issue and it has nothing to do with boxing's dwindling market in America, especially as compared to other sports in America. You have more competition with other sports. Other sports have made it easier to access their sport. College football is such a great TV product that I refuse to go drive 45 minutes and watch an LSU game at Tiger Stadium. I refuse to drive 45 minutes to go watch a Tulane game, both in the top 25, but I'm not going because the TV product is so good. Everything is so accessible and it's cheap. NFL, Sunday Ticket, Red Zone is there, and it's not that expensive as compared to what they're charging in boxing. College basketball, every game is on TV. NBA, their package, easily accessible, not that expensive. MLB, not that expensive. Boxing, it's turning into a country club sport. And if it is, at least give me, if you're going to make it more exclusive, at least give me a better product. That's all I ask for. But this right here, top 10 fighting 13 times. You look at the level of opposition. I mean, it's okay. But compared to 97, 27 times, these guys were fighting. And on top of that, it expands out. 11 through 50, they should be fighting more. Like 11 through 20, then the 21 to 30, the 31 to 40. You should be getting to at least 3 fights per year at that point, but they're not. They're not. So it's an issue. Quality is becoming an issue. And also the belt trends. We're trending down in American boxing when it comes to belt holders. You're having more American fighters say they care less about the belts. And I know why they're doing it. Our fighters are treating it more like a sport. Other parts of the world, those fighters are treating it more like a sport. Less like a sport, more like a sport. Our fighters are treating it more like a business. That's why Devin Haney, I applaud he went to Australia, but that shouldn't be like Australia is not the moon. It's not Mars. Like, it's Australia. You can get there from a flight in a day. It's not the moon. Like, it's not like this dude is like has to wear a gravity suit to go over there. It's Australia. So I applaud that he's doing something that other American fighters aren't doing, but I'm telling you, like, we keep going down this trend, you'll have to have more fighters doing that. As these other fighters are picking up belts and our fighters are saying they care less about it. And our stranglehold on the belts is getting less and less. Like, it's not the moon, it's Australia. It's Australia. Julius Ndongo goes to Russia, UK, Nebraska within a year to consolidate belts. Wins 2, loses 1, makes 7 figures doing it, but he did it. Foreign fighters are used to it. They built up a tolerance to it. American fighters don't, and American boxing fans don't have a tolerance for it. It's not in our DNA. It's not encoded in us because our fighters are so used to staying here. And as each year goes by, they're more pampered. As foreign fighters are coming over here and trying to consolidate belts and actually testing themselves. So in the long run, which one do you think is more conducive to the betterment of the fighters? Do you think fighters are going to get better over time as they're pampered? Do you think over time fighters long-term are going to become better as their fighters are tested more? Mexico's got 9 belts, Japan 7, UK 6. We need to figure out a way to win belts north of middleweight. We need to figure out how to win belts south of lightweight. If we're not caring about 35, 140, 147, 154, 160, that's 5. That's 5. 5 weight classes out of 17 that America has a stranglehold on. 5. 12 out of the 17 weight classes, if my math is correct, we have 2 title holders. What are we doing? What are we doing? $12 out of the 17, if my math is correct. We only have 2 title holders. Stephen Fulton Jr. and Josh Franco. That's it. That makes me want to throw up. Like, it literally makes me want to barf right now on camera. There are 12 out of 17 weight classes where we currently have 2 belt holders. No wonder these dudes are saying that belts don't matter. I mean, no wonder. No wonder American boxing fans are telling me that. No wonder American boxing fans are telling me I don't care about watching midgets fight. No wonder. Because we're trash. We're trash there. No wonder. No wonder they're disparaging cruiserweight and heavyweight. No wonder. No wonder. No wonder they're trying to tear down Bivol and Better Biev. No wonder. I get it now. I get it. No wonder they're trying to disparage what Canelo did at super middleweight. I get it now. I get it. They don't want it to exist in their world. Elitist American fans, I'm telling you, while you continue to disparage fighters with too many consonants in their name, those fighters are out there working. You need to be focusing your energy on building up our infrastructure and bettering, making a better environment here to where we can produce better talent, realized talent, organic talent, realized potential here in America. Focus your energy there. Focus your energy there. Sorry, this has been more of a negative show. We'll be back to positivity tomorrow. Appreciate y'all swinging through. God bless.